Welcome back to another episode of the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast. I have a very special guest on today's show. His name is John Fanta. In my opinion, he's one of the face of college sports in basketball. He just covered the March Madness tournament with the Florida Gators, winning the national championship. Shout out to my alma mater. John, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. My friends were super excited to have me get you on the show. So first of all, I want to ask you, how was your Easter weekend?
Well, Joey, it was great, and it's terrific to be with you, and thanks so much for having me. This is awesome, and it was awesome. Love Easter weekend, had some family traditions that we celebrate, and made some Easter bread, which was a lot of fun, and I'll tell you what, Easter is an awesome time. It's the sun's starting to come out here in New Jersey, and life is good, and things are good, and Easter weekend was great. How was your Easter weekend?
My Easter weekend was pretty good. We just kind of hung out with my mom and some of our family around here. To be honest with you, I really watched NBA playoffs like the entire day. I honestly just kind of just chilled and watched the games and watched the Grizzlies win by or lose by 50 points to the Thunder. I don't know if anybody expected that. I watched the Celtics beat the Magic. I watched a whole lot of basketball, a little bit of hockey, but my Easter weekend was pretty good. But I do have to ask you, I saw you posted on your TikTok, on your social media, the Pascha Fanta traditional bread. So we got to talk about that before we get into all the sports and all the madness and everything about you. We got to hear about that bread.
Well, yeah, the Pascha bread goes back several years. My family has roots in Czechoslovakia and Hungary. So we're Hungarian, we're Czechoslovakian, and this is a bread that actually has sour cream in it, but is made like a lot of other breads.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to celebrate Easter, to celebrate the newness of Easter, and we honor the tradition on Saturday morning by breaking out all the ingredients. You need a lot of flour. If you haven't seen it, I've got the TikTok and Instagram reel up of how to make it. But it's like a lot of breads that I'm sure people have made through the years where, yes, you've got the sugar, you've got the flour, you got everything coming in, you've got the eggs, and sour cream is one of the special ingredients to keep it moist. And, of course, it's yeast-based, and you need the yeast to do its thing. And then you mix all that together, and you let that rise. Then you start making your loaves, and you let those rise, and then you put it in the oven at 360 for 35 minutes, and that was our family tradition being honored. So this goes back a long, long time, well before my time. My dad is one of 8 kids.
Wow.
And one of 8 kids growing up in Northeast Ohio. So he comes from a very busy family, and they've honored this tradition for a long, long time.
That's awesome. Well, I do see a Cavs jersey behind you. The Fanta's 23. So you've got to be a big Cavs fan, I'm assuming.
I am. No, I am a big Cavs fan, and they got it done. I'm a big Cleveland sports fan. Browns, Guardians, who beat the Yankees on Monday night, and the Cavaliers. And so, look, I'm from the west side of Cleveland. I love the Cavs. Mm-hmm. I love all Cleveland sports teams, but the Cavs made an opening statement and beat the Miami Heat by 21 on Easter night. So that completed my Easter weekend for them to be able to win in front of a sold-out crowd and more work to be done. But, look, they're the 1 seed in the East for a reason. Donovan Mitchell had 30. Darius Garland, I thought, had the best performance of his playoff career. And Ty Jerome, national champion at Virginia, who's spent time with 4 different organizations in 6 years. He's found a home in Cleveland, and he had a nuclear performance, 28 points in a playoff debut. That was sensational. So it was a perfect Easter weekend, Joey.
Yeah.
We made bread. We honored our family tradition. We had some chocolate. We had a great Italian dinner on Easter Sunday, and then I watched my basketball team roll to a 21-point win. Thumbs up. It was perfect.
I mean, I don't think it gets better than that. So for me, a couple weeks ago, the Washington Capitals, I'm a Capitals fan. I've been a diehard Ovechkin fan since I started playing hockey. And now you had him break the all-time goal record, 895 goals, passing Wayne Gretzky. And then the week later, the Florida Gators win the national championship. So it was a great past couple weeks for me. So I'm in the same boat as you, but I've just been on a high. Have to see the Gators win it all. And then Ovechkin did that. And then last night he carried the Capitals to a miraculous win.
Unbelievable. Yeah, what a performance by Ovi. And I think Ovechkin's the number 1 storyline of the Stanley Cup playoffs. That was fantastic. What a win for them. and your Florida Gators, the
Yes.
cardiac kids, they never saw a deficit they could not handle, could not face. Unbelievable. I mean, to be down by 10 to Texas Tech, down by 9 with 2:51 on the clock, to be down by 9 to Auburn, to be down by 12 to Houston. 12 to Houston's like 15 or 16 against anybody else. And they did it with defense. They did it with grit. And they did it with Walter, Clayton, Joey.
Yes, I know.
Have you come off the high of that?
The amount of money that I've spent in the past like 2 weeks on all the Florida Gators championship merch from the basketball team has just been insane. But I had to do it because, you know, championships are so special, John. Like, when are the Gators going to win again? The last time they won was 07 with Billy Donovan, their first time being in the national championship in 18 years. They made the Final Four in 2014, but there was something special about this team. I told my friends, I said, when they beat Tennessee in the regular season by 30 points at home, I said, this team is special. They can do it. Obviously, the tournament, anything can happen. It's going to be really hard to do. But the run that they had in March and the SEC tournament they won, all the top teams they beat, like you said, coming back down, you got a chance to cover the tournament, so you saw it firsthand. I had some friends go to the game as well, the Final Four, as well as the national championship, and it was special to see. So I loved every minute of it. But I do have to ask you, with NIL and transfer portal, what do you think about the whole Denzel Aberdeen transferring from Florida to Kentucky, your arch rival, in the same conference? They were saying it was supposed to be for more money, and he was going to supposedly take a bigger role at Florida this year, you know, coming off the championship, and then he just goes to transfer to Kentucky. So what do you make of that?
Well, we're in a money war right now. We're in bidding wars all across college basketball, and frankly, it's why we need some structure and we need some parameters within the sport. We certainly need contracts. Some of them exist, but are they really being followed? Are they really being honored? Do they have to get honored? Probably not.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw last week with the Chad Baker-Mazara instance. And if Auburn fights it because they have a contract, you really want that drama in your locker room. You know, if he comes back, then things are unsettled there. And if you fight him legally, what is that? What kind of a look is that?
Right.
With other kids you're going to recruit. So we're in a state of chaos right now. And it's unsettling and it's not good because I'm normally a positive person. But Denzel Aberdeen shouldn't be part of a national championship team, be a presumed, you know, starter or very major player heading into next season for Florida, and now he transfers within the league. And that right there, that's pro sports, but it's even beyond pro sports because in pro sports, you have a contract, you offer it. This is just do whatever you want. And I'm all for players making money. I am. I really am. But, you know, this to me, like, just a bit disheartening, if I'm being honest with you, because he should still be a Florida Gator. And I don't blame Denzel for seeking his value. I don't blame Denzel for taking money. But I just wish we got to a role where we were, because if Florida and Kentucky were spending the same cash, or we're on the same wavelength because they're in the same league, Denzel Aberdeen would be back at Florida.
100%.
Heading up for discussion. But Kentucky's got significant money. They have some of the I actually think they have the most money in the sport.
Wow.
I really do believe that based on what I'm hearing. I've heard some figures that are just absurd. It's not just touching 10 million. It is well into the 8 figures, if not the teens. Wow. So this is, and I don't blame Mark Pope at Kentucky for spending money on their roster. Right. But we got to get some structure, man. This is out of control. This is out of control. This is not college basketball.
No, I completely agree. And I actually got a chance to, I live in Fort Myers, and a couple, actually there's been a good amount of athletes that have come out of here. Deion Sanders has come out of here, Javon Kerr. So there's been some guys that have come out of here, and I got a chance to go cover a 7-on-7 tournament this past weekend that was actually put on by one of my friends. And I got a chance to talk to some of these athletes and these players going the draft. And I said, you know, with all due respect, the guys in college now are treated like professional athletes. You're getting paid to play. It is an absolute mess with NIL. You just saw Nico, I can never pronounce his last name, Yamave. I can never pronounce it. But now you saw him go from Tennessee to UCLA, his brother going with him. So, and then there was reports that came out that he wanted to back out before the Ohio State game. So it's like they've got to figure some sort of cap with this because, and this is another thing that I also said to them. I said, I think a lot of these organizations and these teams and these big programs and these schools, your Power Fives, your Ohio States, your Floridas, your LSUs, your Michigans, they thought that, oh, these players are going to be able to make some money on the side. Their name is on the back of their jersey, NIL. I didn't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they thought it was going to get to this level. I mean, you're getting players that are getting paid millions and millions of dollars. DJ Lagway went on RG3's podcast and said that if it wasn't for the Gatorade deal that he signed when he came to Florida, took care of his family. I mean, you have these players that are making millions of dollars off brand deals, and it's insane. Now, I'm all for that, but it's the level of how these players are getting paid by these organizations. And like Nick Saban, he got out at the right time. It's a mess.
Well, Nick Saban, Jay Wright, Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, Tony Bennett couldn't do it anymore.
John Beeline, he was a little before, but still, yep.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is real. Mm-hmm. This is real. It's problematic. It's, yep. Those coaches were fine with paying players too, but they knew they couldn't do their formula. They couldn't complete their formula the way they had it in the old system.
Right.
Because now it's how much money do you have? Can you pay me? What role am I going to be playing? And how's that going to work? That's why a younger coach like a Todd Golden, like a John Shire, we're going to see younger and younger coaches get these jobs because you've got to be swift on your feet. You've got to be willing to adapt. You have to be able to say, you know what? I got to be in touch with my guys. It goes beyond just I got to be in touch with them in a different way.
Yeah.
And certain older coaches are still able to do it, but they're a rare breed nowadays. They are. And a lot of these younger coaches are coaching like NBA coaches. Todd Golden coaches his guys, with intensity and puts pressure on them, but like in a different way. Like I never saw him going at his kids during the NCAA tournament run. He's very different. He's
Dan Hurley.
Yeah, he's very nuanced. He's very nuanced.
No, and that's a great point as well. Like you said, these younger coaches, and then you have Rick Pitino as well, who's still hanging around. He just loves the game of basketball. He's been coaching longer than I've been alive. But there's one thing that I did want to ask you about the Rick Pitino situation, and you got a chance to cover this past tournament. What do you think when a coach pulls their best player? I know in a situation like this, you're out there to win. You got to put the best players out there. But he's been your best player all year long, RJ Lewis. He won the Big East Player of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
He did. He won Big East Player of the Year. All-American.
And then you pull him in a situation like that. What do you think? It's hard because what do you think of that? Because you're sending a really weird message to a player. I know you have to put the best players out there. It makes me think of the situation when Bill Belichick did with Malcolm Butler. It makes me think of those situations when big time players were pulled and you're like, why? This guy has been our best guy all year long.
Well, I think that's look who pulled them. Look who pulled Butler, Bill Belichick. Look who pulled RJ Lewis, Rick Pitino. These coaches are in non-negotiable territory. It's their way or the highway. So Rick is one of the greatest coaches of all time. He is. I wouldn't have the stones to have RJ Lewis on the bench there. I just wouldn't.
Right.
And I thought Lewis should have been out there. I think we all did. But the fact is, Lewis had a horrible game.
Yeah.
Like, let's call it what it is as well. He was taking terrible shots. If Lewis was having even an okay game, if not mediocre game, he's probably out there. But he took shots that were out of control, that were hero ball shots, that were not what Pitino was drawing up. And I know you want to go down with your best players. So I like that. That's the school of thought that I'm in. But now that I look at it, Joey, everyone's like, well, this is why Lewis transferred. I think Lewis knew he was going to go into the portal before the game. I think things have run their course. I think people get tired of each other. Other players get tired of people. And I'm not saying I know anything exactly, but you hear stuff.
Yeah.
And stuff's happening behind the scenes. We don't even know the half of what goes on with the team behind the scenes. We can get into a locker room, do media availability, spend a ton of time around a team. But unless you're there every single hour of every single day, who knows what happens in the course of a day? So to me, that was indicative of what the ending was going to be. He knew he didn't have ties to RJ Lewis going forward. So he said, you know what, sit down. RJ had a rough game. I still would have had him out there, but I'm not Rick Pitino, and Rick Pitino's won close to 900 more games than I ever will. So I get it, but there's in this culture, in this climate of college basketball, the clash of egos between star players and coach is really interesting because the coaches, at the end of the day, when the games start, the coaches are still the storylines.
Yep.
It's like in college football, the coaches carry these larger-than-life personalities because the players change. And now the players are changing so much, the only constant is the head coach.
Yep.
So that's where we're at right now.
You made great points there. Absolutely. I mean, you go to college football now with the big storyline of the coaches there, and you have players being paid over there and they're leaving. Nico, we just talked about, it's a perfect example. You had turmoil situation with Jeremiah Smith earlier in the year after they won the national championship. Michigan wanted him. Another team wanted him. You just had Carson Beck leave Georgia to go to Miami, and like a complete slap in the face to Georgia. Like, is he going to go this draft? Is he not? No, he goes and gets $4.7 million a year from Miami. Lane Kiffin was on the Pivot podcast and he was laughing his tail off about Carson Beck going to Miami. So, I mean, it's insane to think about. I don't know. But do you think like John Shire and Cooper Flagg, obviously RJ Lewis isn't on the same level of Cooper Flagg, but if Cooper Flagg's having a bad game, is he going to get pulled? Absolutely not.
Well, no, but Cooper Flagg doesn't have bad games.
That's true.
Unless he never had a bad game at Duke, and he's not going to. And John Shire pulled some of his guys in recent years when they were not playing well. He had done that. I mean, I look back to last year, not this year, but in 2020, 2023, that class. That class, as I look at that class had TJ Power, Caleb Foster, Sean Stewart, and Jared McCain. And those three other kids rather early in the season. Like, think about this. TJ Power was a 5-star kid ranked 17th in his class. Sean Stewart was 22nd. Caleb Foster was 23rd. And let's face it, they barely played. Barely played. Now, Power, and rightly so, they haven't panned out. But it does show you, Joey, recruiting rankings don't buy everything you read.
The Gators didn't have one 5-star on that team this past national championship. And they won. It doesn't. Exactly. I mean, it doesn't matter. Now, let me ask you this question, because this one has been on my mind for a while. Some people have different opinions about it with college basketball, with this past tournament, with March Madness, the 1 seeds. Do you think that's good for the sport of basketball, having all 4 1 seeds, Auburn, Duke, Houston, and Florida, compared to having a Cinderella run? Like, what do you think? Because I did see on ESPN, Jay Williams was talking about this, and I tend to agree with this. I want to hear your opinion. Do you think the days of having Cinderella runs in college basketball, minus McNeese against Clemson in the first round, like going later into the tournament, whereas like St. Peter's or NC State the year before, like now with NIL being such a heavy factor in college basketball, do you think those days are over?
I don't. I think that they're probably waning some, but I don't think they're over, because what happens when McNeese beats Clemson and Drake beats Missouri, and now they play each other in the second round, and one of them makes a Sweet 16. So you don't control a bracket.
Yeah.
And look at it this way. Again, you don't know what's happening inside a locker room.
Right.
So if there's a team or 2 teams or 3 teams that are on the 3, 4, 5 line that are checked out and done, and they no-show their first round game, and it's a mammoth upset, it's basketball.
Yep.
It's basketball. Anything can happen. Colorado State was a possession away from making the Sweet 16 as a 12 seed.
That's true. So
right. to have a funeral, look, is it good for the game to not have any Cinderellas make the Sweet 16? I don't think so. I like Cinderella. I love Cinderella. I think she's gassing up her carriage right now, and we're going to see the return of Cinderella next season.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
okay.
I believe that. I don't think that this is going to turn into an every year thing. We had it 2 years ago. We had 5 double-digit seeds in Sweet 16.
Right.
But now everybody's like, well, it's because of NIL. Well, NIL's definitely taken off here. It has. But we got to wait and see.
That's true. Yeah, it's so hard to say, because and I'm with you too, but it's these players are getting paid and they're going to these bigger schools. It's like, well, why would I go to that smaller school when I can go here and I can make a lot more money? I don't know. I get what you're saying. It's hard. It's a really hard thing to say. Yeah.
It's basketball. So what I mean by that is anything can happen in these games. This is in college football. In college football, there's no such thing as Cinderella.
Yeah.
She never existed.
No,
she never will.
No.
She never will exist.
No, she won't. No.
That's why I do have to say this about college football.
Yeah.
I laugh when people are like, I can't miss this game. I gotta watch this game. Well, who's playing? Well, this is a really interesting game. Okay, well, who's playing? Well, Pitt is going to play Louisville.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a great Thursday night game. It's fun. All right, well, what does it mean?
Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the AutoZone Bowl.
Right.
Whereas with college basketball, once you get to that tournament, there's still an unpredictability there. As for the 4-1 seeds, Texas Tech could have easily been in the Final Four. Michigan could have been in the Final Four. Michigan was up on Auburn with 12 minutes to go and controlling the game. It was only the second time we'd ever had 4 number 1 seeds. Let's just relish that we got that. And we got three games decided by 11 points.
Yes.
This is the second lowest margin combined of Final Four games that we've ever seen.
And the fact that Houston came back against Duke too, which was insane to think about. I mean, it was a great tournament overall, but I do want to ask you just a few questions and just like the common questions about sports broadcasting, sports media, like a day in your life. So what got you into sports broadcasting originally?
Well, growing up in Cleveland with voices like Tom Hamilton, Joe Tate, Jimmy Donovan, some of the great play-by-play guys in sports, especially in local sports, guys that just did an amazing job. When you grow up in Cleveland, you eat, breathe, sleep, die, Browns, Guardians, Cavs. And you're those 3 teams are like my kids. I love them all equally. I want to see them all win. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. It's not a choice. It is life in a best way possible. And so many Friday nights at the ballpark, so many Sundays at Brown Stadium, so many nights watching the Cavs. I was 7 when LeBron James got drafted. That's my childhood. So, but Joey, I'd grow up and, while all my cousins and stuff were at the family parties playing video games or playing whatever in the yard, I was with the adults in the kitchen talking about batting averages and football and basketball and giving the latest stats and numbers.
Same.
Nugget. So, that's what I like to do. And I got to high school. Well, I did the PA announcements in grade school. I went to St. Bernadette in Westlake, Ohio. I did the PA announcements every single morning to the students. In high school, I did the same. And, I got done with my freshman year of high school football. And my dad, he played football as well. He was a left guard. Very, very good player. I was not. I was a turnstile as a left guard. But he said to me, I was coming home from the season ended, Joey, and I was coming home from school every day playing video games and doing homework. And he said, so what's next for you? I said, I'm doing the off-season program, and then I'll get back into it eventually. He goes, no. He said, you have to find your passion. You gotta do something else. You don't just play football. What else can you do? I was in the choir. I was helping with different things in the church programs at the high school and whatnot. But I wasn't doing any sportscasting. And I went to the athletic director at St. Ignatius and I said, hey, do you have a broadcasting network? And it turned out that he did.
Oh, wow.
And it was just started up. And he said, go up to this moderator's office and talk with him. Guy by the name of Jeff McCormick. And when I went into Jeff's office, Joey, we talked for about 5 or 10 minutes about broadcasting. The rest of the 2 hours we talked sports. And when I say that is to say it's then that I realized I've got something here in terms of I can talk to people. I can relate to people. I can have a conversation. All those conversations I had with the adults when I was 5 and 6 years old, that's a skill. And it translated to that because that was like an interview for me without even knowing it. Yes. And I just handled it with ease. So I love talking to people. I love conversing with people. And, I think for me in that moment, that got me started. I was a cameraman on junior varsity basketball games. We got halfway through the season. The play-by-play guy was running for student senate. This is classic high school stuff.
Yeah.
He got up at halftime of the game and said, I can't do this anymore.
Oh, wow.
And the moderator looks at me. Was he going to look at somebody random at the game or look at the camera guy who he gave a shot? He looked at me, goes, can you hop on this game? I couldn't have run faster to the headset. And I haven't taken it off since. You never know when your opportunity is going to come. But there was taking my dad's advice, pursuing a passion. That's how I got started.
I can, I can resonate with that as much as I can. And I've never met you personally, but just seeing your social media and just having a conversation with you here on here now, I feel like I've known you for 10 years because we're passionate about the same thing. Now you've hit the mountaintop. I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't even gotten into the sports world like I really want to, but it's just,
Well, you will.
It's a pleasure to talk to you
Well on
because
your way.
thank you. I really appreciate that because like I feel like I've just can have a conversation with you and we're passionate about it, so we both can relate and it's great. It's great to talk about. But um, was there any? I mean, everyone goes through hardships with sports broadcasting, whether it's media, public relations, a normal job, everyday life. How do you balance those ups and downs? Because I know you said you have a family and you're on the road and you're doing all these broadcasting things, play by play, interviewing. How do you balance all that?
Well, with amazing maneuverability, I guess. No, you know what? You need to have an understanding family. You need to be swift on your toes. You got to be able to manage your time.
Mm-hmm.
But family's first. I mean, my wife and I have our firstborn on the way,
Congratulations.
coming May 5th. So that's less than 2 weeks from now. Wow. So really next week, it's going to be shutdown mode, or maybe watching some NBA playoffs but being at home base and getting ready for the arrival of our new addition. But I think for me, it's just, Joe, you got to be honest. You got to converse. I talk with my wife all the time about this stuff. Is you have to have a supportive family. It's not an easy lifestyle. It is a lot of long nights and early mornings and early flights and finding a way to get here, there, and everywhere. And I enjoy it. It's a labor of love for me. I genuinely love doing this. And it's living out a dream that I never want to lose. So I never take it for granted. Never take it for granted. And, I think that the thing that I say to myself is find a way. You find a way to make it happen. And along this journey, there's going to be bumps. There's going to be unexpected things that happen in a game, on your schedule. Travel's probably the toughest, Joey, because you can't control flights and whatnot. Yeah. But what I say to people is say yes and be kind to people. You're not Superman. You can't do it all. But you can, if you're patient and you work hard and you're nice to people, you're going to get opportunities. And when you get those opportunities, find a way to say yes, and good things are going to happen.
And that's a great way to say that too. When I was at UF, I got a chance to cover the football team, the basketball team. A lot of it was COVID time, so it was hard. So I did a lot of Zoom interviews and stuff on the phone and stuff like that. But I never took it for granted. And even when I had the opportunity to go cover the Gasparilla Bowl, I said, "Yeah, I'm going." They said, "You need to be vaccinated." I said, "I'll be there. I'll be there. I'm driving over. I'm going to be there." It's like if you love it so much, you have that passion. But what is a day in the life like for you? Like just as a normal day or a sports day, like what is a day in the life for you?
Well, this morning I got up. This is the off season, but I got up. And there is no off season.
Yeah.
But woke up and got to emails and looking at things in the transfer portal, and broke a couple of stories on the portal, which closes in less than 12 hours.
Yes.
Hop on with my editors at Fox Sports. Hey, here's some of the content I've got cooking right now. Hey, some early NBA playoffs takeaways. Hey, the portal's going to close. Here's something to look at. Scheduling some meetings and whatnot. And, doing everything from, I heard from a conference this morning. Hey, can you come to our media day in the fall? Would you like to do some interviews? During the season, it's wake up on a let's just say on a Wednesday, work on some sort of a roundtable or a bubble watch or a top players in the sport of college basketball for foxsports.com, do a video breakdown of that, do an interview with somebody on that on Zoom, head to 2 shoot-arounds for a game at Villanova, at Seton Hall, at Providence, at St. John's. get done with those shoot-arounds, head back to the hotel, make sure my game boards are together. I've got my boards ready to go. I use, Google Docs, and I have a template that I use. Look everything over, shower, head to the arena, do the game, get done with the game, interview the winning coach, interview the winning player for Fox Digital, or for NBC, who I was working for this past year, head home, go to sleep, wake up, record a podcast, start diving back into what content we've got cooking, a weekend preview, get on the phone with producer, with analysts, with coaches for a game that we've got Saturday or Sunday, start unpacking the bag, repacking the bag, getting ready to travel to another game. That's the life during the season.
Yeah, and most people don't realize that because they just see the TV and you're on there. It's like it's nothing like that. Now, when I was at UF, I got a chance to see all the behind the scenes and do. It's a lot of work, and there's, like you said, there's a lot of sacrifices I'm sure that you've made throughout your career with holidays and timing, and you have to work Thanksgiving and you have to work Christmas and this that, and it's like it never ends. And most people say if you love it, you're not working a job. It's not your job. You love it, so it doesn't feel like a job. And that's the most important part that I've always seen about it. But
and that's just it. It doesn't feel like a job to me. I love doing it, but yeah, you got to be ready to go. I mean,
yep.
Saturday I'll have a game at, like this past year. It was a Saturday in February.
Mm-hmm.
I had a game in Philadelphia. I did the game at 12 o'clock. I got in the car. I drove back home. I dropped the rental car off back at my house. I took the train to New York City. I covered Duke in Illinois. I did a rapid-fire FoxSports.com column right off the game. I interviewed John Shire in the back. Then I went upstairs to the Garden Upper Concourse and did a Field of 68 90-minute show. Well, the day started at noon with the game. We went 14 hours from Philadelphia to New York. We did a broadcast, a live show, a column, interviews, all that content within about 13 hours. But that's the way that it goes. And I never look at it of, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. I say, I get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I get to live this life. This is a privilege. There's people who would kill for this opportunity, these opportunities. Let's make the most of it.
Absolutely. No, and that's 100% accurate. I completely agree with that. I have to ask you though, with the NFL draft coming up, you're a Browns guy. Who do you want the Browns to draft?
Well, I'd like them to draft Travis Hunter because I think he is an otherworldly player who could do it on both ends. And I just think the versatility there and the playmaking ability is off the charts. So if I had my decision, I would draft Travis Hunter at number 2, and I wouldn't think twice about it. I know that Shedeur Sanders has been tossed around. I don't see it. I don't like the fit. You don't get Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett and then draft Shedeur Sanders, in my humble opinion. Could they trade back in, get Jalen Milroe? Could they go and get Dart? Maybe. Perhaps.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I think that the Browns should draft Hunter. Now, it sounds like I saw Peter Schrager reporting that the Browns and Giants are fielding calls about the second and third picks. I tend to think that's a bit of a smokescreen, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're fielding calls and looking at things and looking at possibilities. We know Cam Ward is going 1, but this draft is going to be fascinating because I think we could see plenty of movement on the night. And you know what? With the Cleveland Browns, they had incapable, horrible quarterback play this past year. They have to get competency at that position. That doesn't mean a rookie right off the bat in all likelihood. It just means having one of these veterans, because what you have to do, Joey, is you have to see who belongs on your football team going forward and who doesn't. Last year, you couldn't see that because they didn't have a capable quarterback, so it was hard to evaluate anything else because they literally went 3 and out the majority of their possessions, and they could not do much. So I want to see what happens here. And if they trade back in to get a quarterback or get a quarterback in the later rounds, maybe they'll do that. But I would draft Travis Hunter. I think that his upside is the most in this draft class.
Wow, that's a bold statement. I don't know if you heard this comparison actually, but the Browns GM, if I'm not mistaken, said that he sees Travis Hunter like Shohei Ohtani. Do you think that's a crazy statement, or I know obviously Ohtani is on a whole other level, but when you compare and you say, well, Travis Hunter plays both sides of the ball and Ohtani pitches and he bats, I mean, I know it's crazy, but
football and baseball are so different in that respect. I mean, Shohei Shohei Ohtani willed the Dodgers to a championship and has more championships in sight because he's Shohei Ohtani.
Travis
So
Hunter is,
Travis Hunter is going to be a good player, but he's not helping the Browns to a Super Bowl. If whoever he's drafted by, he's going to be another player on that team. But yeah, in terms of the skill set, it's rarefied air. It's rarefied air, and that's what the comparison was meant for.
Absolutely. What do you think?
If he is, if he's Shohei Ohtani, then they should draft him.
What do you think about this? I thought this was crazy when I saw this. I immediately said, oh my gosh, what is going on? The Colorado Buffaloes, Deion Sanders and his crew, retiring Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders' jersey? What are we doing here?
Yeah. And they haven't retired a number of others. It's Deion's world, Joey.
I know, but come on. Like, that's so disrespectful to the sport. Like, you think you're like
Deion's world. You're living in Deion's world. This is why whoever drafts Shedeur, it ain't gonna be long until Dad's coaching the team.
Wow. So what do you think about this? So the Raiders draft Shedeur at 6.
Yep.
Shedeur sits behind Geno Smith for the 2-year extension that he's under. Pete Carroll's there for 3. Let's see if he makes it 3, and then Deion finds his way.
And Geno wouldn't make it through the 2 years.
No, I don't think so either.
Shedeur start a game this upcoming season.
Could totally see that.
Deion would be in Vegas in 2 to 3 seasons. That's the way it goes.
Do you think there's a world where the Giants draft Shedeur at 3?
Yeah, I could see that. The Giants could do it. The Giants need help at quarterback, and Russell Wilson's not going to be the answer.
And you got Jameis Winston now too.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Right.
And Jameis Winston, I mean, it's nice for the culture of your locker room, but that guy, it's not happening. He's an interception machine.
It's going to be interesting to see how these picks will play out after Cam Ward because, obviously Travis Hunter looks like he's the favorite at 2, but the Browns could still draft Abdul Carter at 2, pair him with Myles Garrett. That would be insane. You're a diehard Browns fan, so you get that. You got the Giants as well. They're teetering back and forth. Quarterback, they could also draft Abdul Carter sitting next to Kayvon Thibodeau, so you have that as well. And then the Patriots, I'm a Patriots fan. Will Campbell potentially, Tet McMillan, maybe Abdul Carter. I don't see Travis Hunter falling to 4, but if he does in a dream world, maybe. But it'll be interesting to see where the rest of these picks go. But then you have Genty. I'm sure somebody's going to draft him in the top 10. I'm pretty confident.
Well, it looks like
draft him in the top 10.
Yeah, maybe top 5. The way that this is going, the way that the league is embracing running backs again, I think that Genty could be a guy that goes even higher than that.
I'm with you. I was telling my friend back on the podcast about a month or 2 ago. I said, I think Genty's going to go top 10. I don't see why he wouldn't. Running back is so valuable in this day and age. A team could be very desperate to trade up or draft him in that position. You got the Bears. The Broncos might trade up there. The Raiders could do it. If Shedeur does go, the Raiders need a running back. So and if the way Genty played this past season, if he's any bit of that and he can translate that to the NFL, I don't see why he wouldn't go top 10.
Yeah. Look, it's on the table, and we're seeing running backs become more of a premium now, and their price can go up. And the way that the league's just being shaped, it had been so driven by passing, but we're seeing that multi-dimensional running backs are picking up steam in the marketplace. So this is going to be a really compelling draft, and the top of it, I'm fascinated to see how the night goes.
I've got to ask your opinion on this. I know we've only got a little bit more time left, but this is one that I always love to ask people. How do you think the old head comparison with basketball back then with Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, all those guys back then compared to now? Do you think somebody like Kevin Durant or LeBron James would absolutely dominate that era back then?
Well, I don't know if they would absolutely dominate it. I don't think any of them would absolutely dominate Michael Jordan or Larry Bird. I mean, look, the game has changed. The level of athlete has changed.
Yes.
So would their athleticism be overbearing at times? Sure. Sure. But there's also things that some of these guys today have access to that guys back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s just didn't. I don't know what magic potion LeBron James is given. I'm sure it's something.
I don't know. It's insane.
He's kept in the most elite shape I've ever seen an athlete. The guy, I knock on wood.
Yeah.
He's never suffered a major injury.
No, and when he goes down in the game, it looks like it's like this major season-ending injury, and then he's back up. He's fine. I remember Dwayne Wade said that. He's like, I've seen LeBron go down in a game, I swear he's Superman.
Yeah, so I think to your point, Joey, like it's hard to put those guys in that era. Do I think that some of them would be among the best in the league, if not the best? Yes, I do. But the league was also a lot more physical back then.
It was.
They let a lot more go on.
It was.
And the regular season, those guys played.
Yeah, they did.
Now, Joey, the regular season feels like exhibition games compared to the playoffs. It just does. Look at these playoff games. They're playing a different intensity rate. The refs let a lot more go on.
Yes.
You know, there's been players who are getting bumped in these playoff games. Like, hey, that was a foul in November. And the ref looks at them and goes, well, it's April now. It ain't a foul now. So that's one of the more interesting things happening. I don't think, though, I don't subscribe to the fact that anybody's just going to go to a different era and be totally dominant. I think they'd be great players. But it was a different time back then. Guys played harder and guys were dirtier, let's be honest.
Yeah. No, and that's a great thing as well. It's just always when you want to hear like, well, Kevin Durant is one of the most unguardable players in NBA history. Of course he would go back then, like Kevin Durant versus Larry Bird. Now, obviously it's more physical back then, but when you sit there and you go, I don't know. It's one of those things, like you said, the physicality was totally different back then. The guys weren't as athletic, but then you sit there and you go, Russell Westbrook would torch John Stockton, or Russell Westbrook would run circles around that point guard, or it's like, I don't know. I always love to have that comparison or that argument. But let me ask you, this past 2024 Olympics Paris team, the Avengers they called them, or the 1992 Dream Team?
Man, this team was unbelievable. But I would still take the Dream Team.
Really?
Yeah, I would still. They're the Dream Team for a reason.
That's true.
The Dream Team for a reason. They're in a. This team had some trouble in some of these games.
They did, but
I mean, they could. The game has changed internationally. That's for sure. But when I look at the two teams,
you had Stockton, you had Bird, you had Magic, you had Michael, you had Ewing, you had was Malone on that team. You had Chris Mullin.
The Dream Team, here's the thing. It's hard to compare eras. The Dream Team was more impactful to basketball at the time.
Yeah.
They won by a greater margin of victory. And look, this Avengers team, 12 Hall of Famers, they were so good. They were really an amazing group. But I think if you look, this team, who's better? Okay.
Yeah.
In today's era, the 2014 would beat the Dream Team just by virtue of the way that the game has evolved. But relative to the era, all the best players in the world were playing for the Dream Team. In this year, Joey, the best player in the Olympics, the best player in the world wasn't on the United States team.
Best player, Jokic, right?
Nikola Jokic,
right,
and Giannis,
right? Yeah.
So think about Embiid, Embiid suited up for him, but Wemby,
yep,
right? And I'm not saying he's top three, but I will say like it's interesting because I think that it's a great debate. This 2014 was absolutely unreal. It's a hard debate because of how much the game has changed.
Yeah.
The 2014 would beat the 92 team. It would.
Yes, absolutely.
But in terms of what will have always done more for basketball, the Dream Team just is always going to be in a class of their own just because they set a standard.
No, I know. And I always love that one.
Think about this one. The 2024 team included one player who won MVP in the last 8 years. The 92 team not only included every player who had won MVP in the 9 years before 92, but also every MVP in the following 7 years except one.
Wow.
So in that era, at the time, in 92, that team featured basically a combined 15 of 16 MVP winners.
Jeez.
Basketball's changed a lot, but that team was at the time was unbelievable. There was less of a talent pool too of the best talent than there is now.
Yeah, I mean, you had Derek White made the Team USA over Jaylen Brown. I mean, I know Kawhi Leonard was the original guy, and then Derek White replaced him. But it's like, how are you going to tell me the Finals MVP doesn't belong on that team? That doesn't make. And I know Jerry Colangelo and Grant Hill said we're going for fit. You're telling me Derek White fits over Jaylen Brown?
Right. I mean that's where
I didn't understand. The Finals MVP was the best player in that Boston Mavs series in the last year's finals. Doesn't make the roster at all. What? That's where I was confused by that as well. But before we wrap up, I got to ask you, what is your Cleveland sports Mount Rushmore?
My Cleveland sports Mount Rushmore of my lifetime or of ever?
Ever or your lifetime.
So ever, Jim Brown, for sure. LeBron James.
Yep.
He delivered a championship. He's on it of my lifetime and of all time.
Yep.
And from there, it gets rather interesting. It's hard. Probably Bob Feller. He was an unbelievable pitcher for the Indians. And first ballot guy. There's a statue of him outside the stadium. One of one type of guy. Man. And then it's probably a mix of like either an Otto Graham.
Yeah, I was going to say
Otto Graham or yeah, it's tough because like Jim Thome left town.
Yeah,
a bunch of those baseball guys left town. Ramirez and it's a hard debate in Cleveland sports of how you would package that together because like Mark Price would be up there, Brad Daugherty would be up there.
Fair, yeah.
Jose Ramirez is earning his spot because he stayed committed to the Indians, and he didn't. I mean, he's on it of my lifetime. Of my lifetime, LeBron James, Jose Ramirez would be two. And then from there, probably Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
And then it's tough. I mean, there's a couple of guys. One guy that should be considered is Zydrunas Ilgauskas. He gave so much to the Cavs organization. Lindor could have been up there, but doesn't stay because he ended up leaving town. But yeah, I mean, it's nobody for the Browns. Joe Thomas is a Hall of Famer.
I was about to say that. I didn't know if you were going to steal him. I was going to say him.
Yeah. Joe Thomas. And then from there you go LeBron and Ramirez and so on.
I would say, yeah, for my lifetime, I would have to go LeBron, of course. I would have to go LeBron. I'd have to go Joe Thomas in my lifetime. I'd have to go Myles Garrett. He's up there. He's close, I would say.
Up there. The events of this past year,
but the fact that he's over 100 sacks in his career already, I don't know what's up with my light right now. Anyways, you got LeBron, you got Myles Garrett, Joe Thomas. Oof, maybe
Jesse Owens could be on there too all time. I was just looking.
Okay,
he could be on there all time.
And then, maybe Ramirez. I guess I would Jose Ramirez. Yeah, I mean it's definitely one of it's definitely close. I would say for sure.
Yeah, Bernie Kosar in the 80s was beloved as well. So wait, your four would be who? Joe Thomas, LeBron,
Myles Garrett, and Ramirez in my lifetime, at least.
Yeah,
in my
Myles
lifetime.
Garrett and Ramirez. Nick Chubb would also have a case. He would have a case. But yeah, Thomas has got to be on there. LeBron's got to be on there, and I think Ramirez has to be on there. But then from there, you could go in a variety of ways. You really could.
Yeah, I would say that. I'm trying to. Yeah, I would think. Do you got any Mount Rushmores that you have, as in like sports guys, or other than like Cleveland or
college basketball coaches? I like to do this one. I like to go John Wooden, Mike Krzyzewski, Rick Pitino, Jim Calhoun. If I had an all time, those would be my four. Those would be my four. Boeheim has a case for sure.
Yep.
Roy Williams has a case, but Rick Pitino's got to be on there, and I think Jim Calhoun gets on there because what he built in farmland of Storrs, Connecticut, was unbelievable.
You got John Wooden as well. I don't know what is up with I don't know what's going on with that right now. There we go. Is it? There we go. John, I don't know what is up with that. It's never done that before.
We're up.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. You have John Wooden as well. That's another guy. Yeah. I mean, there's so many, but I'll take that one. I always do this to end the show. 5 questions for my guest. For anyone listening who wants to follow in your footsteps, what's the first step they should take?
Well, brand yourself. Get on social media and brand yourself. Be active on social. Say yes. Create a web. Create a connection web. And be as kind off the air as you are on the air. Be open to opportunities. Say yes. And put yourself out there. You manage your social platforms. Nobody else. And don't make excuses. You are in charge of yourself. Those are my biggest piece of advice. Even if there's an opportunity that you're unsure about when they offer it to you, say yes. It could lead you down a whole road you didn't even know existed.
What's the best advice you've ever received, and how did it shape you?
Well, the best advice I ever received was when somebody helped me with an opportunity. I said, thank you so much. I was in college. I said, how can I repay you? They said, do it for someone else when they're in this position. And so that's something I hold myself to every day, that if somebody asks me for something or somebody needs something, I try to help them out as well. It's something that I really value. The other thing is, somebody said to me at Fox, my first week working there, they said, one thing we hold ourselves to is nobody wants to work with a jerk. And I've always held that to myself of like, you know what? We're doing sports casting. We're not doing open heart surgery or legal cases. We get to do this. Nobody wants to work with a jerk. Be kind.
What's the weirdest food combination you absolutely love?
Well, I'm a picky eater.
Same.
So I'm a very, very picky eater.
Same here.
I'm trying to think of something that I like that you wouldn't believe that I like. But man, I'm a very, very stubborn eater who doesn't like to mix my foods much and whatnot. I like chicken paprikash, which is this chicken dish in Cleveland that has some a unique sauce. You can look it up, America, and check it out. A picky eater might not enjoy that. I, however, do enjoy that. But yeah, I'm plain Jane here, Joey. That's who I do like. Like I like clams and I like mussels, and I'm not picky about that stuff.
I hate mayonnaise. I hate mustard.
So I hate mayonnaise.
I hate
mayonnaise. I don't like mustard.
Yes, you're the same. So you're same here. I can't stand mayo. Can't stand mustard. Ugh. I'm a meat.
I don't like meat.
I don't
eat eggs.
Really? Okay, so I like it. I got eggs. I like, but I don't.
No
like
eggs
sushi.
here.
Really? Wow. If you could only keep 3 apps on your phone, which ones would you choose?
X. Look at my phone here. X, Spotify, because I like listening to music. And man, that's a tough one. Yeah,
because Messages isn't an app, so
the MLB app, because
no Instagram.
I'd go without it so that I could watch I got to watch my baseball team play.
That's true. Yeah, MLB app.
Watch them during the summer. This is the only way I can watch them. Is through that, because I get the MLB TV through T-Mobile.
Same here.
If you took that away from me, I'd be lost.
Yeah, same. Yeah, we're playing you guys right now. You're
a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ramirez had other plans last night.
6-4. I thought we were complete toast, but I didn't think we were coming
back. Comeback. Yeah.
If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Wow, just one person. Man, it's a great question. It's a hard question that I haven't thought about.
Sorry if I stumped you.
No, it's a very good question. I gotta think about it here because I want to get the right. Well, I never got to spend much time with Bill Walton.
Oh, yes.
I want to go to dinner with Bill Walton. One of one personality,
Yeah.
unique personality, really interesting person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to vote for Bill.
I like that one.
Vote for Bill.
Well, I think that officially does it for us. Thanks again for tuning into another episode of the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. You can find John Fanta's socials as John Fanta on Instagram, X, TikTok. He covers sports. He's worked for Fox Sports. He does play-by-play broadcasting. He just covered the most recent March Madness tournament, watching the Gators win. He's a huge Cleveland sports fan, Guardians fan, you name it. He's got it all covered for you guys. So it was a pleasure to have John Fanta on the podcast. We greatly appreciate you coming on. It was awesome to hear your insight on sports on the daily, a little bit into your family life. Congratulations to you for having your first child on May 5th. That's awesome to hear about, and awesome to hear your insight on sports, how play-by-play broadcasting works, and inside the day life hearing all of it. So it was awesome to have you on. So
well,
thanks. Yeah.
Joey, great to be with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for having me. I said Bill Walton because he's a one of one personality and did it in a way that only he could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so unique calling games. You're unique with how you interview. You do a fantastic job. You do a great job with this show.
Thank you.
Keep up the awesome work.
Thank
Your
you.
star's only going to continue to rise.
Thank you.
And I'll tell you what, man, congrats on your success. Much more to come.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if you wondered why the podcast was called the Inquisitive Mamba, but my high school basketball coach actually gave me the nickname Inquisitive because I asked so many, quote for quote by him, I had him in health. He was my health teacher too. You ask so many damn questions, Joey. You ask so many damn questions. And then the Mamba came from Kobe, and then that's where the podcast name came from.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. That is awesome. That is awesome. Keep up the great work. Great to join you.
Thank you. Absolutely, John. It was a pleasure. As always, we will see you guys next time. And as I always say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Mamba mentality. We'll see you guys next week.